paragraph 11 and 12. I'm sorry, 10 and 11. Does that sound right? Miss Sandy, you're the recorder. Okay. Well, last week, Aurelio dealt with the study of Torah, what its purpose, and talking about how God grants us particular means in which He can bring men and women closer to Him, and that is through the study of Torah. We were just talking about before the class how when you do a sin, when a sin is committed, immediately you rectify it by studying Torah or giving charity. It's like immediately. We're going to be, once again, I said, in the Way of God, chapter 4, and we're going to be in paragraph 10 and 11. Every state in which an individual exists, whether it be one of darkness or enlightenment, is a result of either the presence or the absence of God's light. When anything is illuminated by God's presence, its purity and its perfection are increased accordingly to the degree of illumination. The opposite is true when the light is concealed. So we're going to be learning here that, yes, there is the study of Torah, there are mitzvot, but there are degrees of illumination a person can receive. When we study Torah, if we don't have illumination, will we actually retain Torah? Will we actually have the wisdom of Torah if we don't do the mitzvah, if we don't practice it? No, it won't happen. The illumination comes when God illuminates you. Well, the question is does God illuminate you and draw you, or do you draw close to God and He illuminates you? You draw close to Him and He illuminates Him. So if one doesn't have illumination, whose fault is that? Hashem's? No, God has set up this whole kingdom, this whole physicality in such a way that His laws are in charge. So the consequences, as like Rabbi Cohen said last Sunday, the consequences of not following the Torah for the Israelite people in the land is that the land will end up eventually kicking them out, right? They'll be removed out of the land. It's not because Hashem is waiting for an opportunity to crack down on them and to hit them in the head with a hammer. It's a fact that God is waiting for people to draw close to Him, and when they draw close to Him, it is just by natural process illumination takes place. It says, God does not withhold His good, and therefore when a person draws close to God, he is continually enlightened by Him. It is only when an individual does not bring himself close to God that he is deprived of the light, and this deprivation, however, is due to the recipient and not to God. It says, the highest wisdom decree that every act of observing God's commandment should bring a person closer to God in a particular determined degree. The individual then attains a degree of God's light corresponding to the degree of closeness, and this is in turn causes a degree of perfection resulting from that enlightenment to become an integral part of Him. So if you can picture anything that is dark, a candle in a dark space, the closer you get to it, the more illumination you have, the more clarity you have. With my eyesight being as it is as we get older, we understand how important light is to being able to read. You could have a very common book that you know most of the material, but to be honest with you, without the illumination, it would be impossible to read it. And the best way to be able to get that illumination is to draw closer to Hashem. We learn that the opposite is true of sin. So that means that if we do mitzvah, we study Torah, we draw closer to Hashem, Hashem enlightens us more. So it is this sort of, it's the side benefit, or it's the benefit of studying Torah and doing mitzvahs. We get illumination. And I've often mentioned, I think I mentioned to someone this last week when I was in Queens, that the proof is in the pudding. I will be talking to someone who doesn't follow any of the mitzvah, and I'll ask them to do one particular mitzvah, like eating kosher, doing it for 90 days or 30 days, and seeing what the difference will be in their ability to retain and have enlightenment in their study. And it does make a big difference. Now, I can go into all the explanations from Kabbalah and etc. that would explain why, but the bottom line is, the proof is in the fact that when you do it, something changes. When you begin to practice a mitzvah, things begin to change. So with that fact being said, sin has the same effect. Every sin that we commit brings us a degree further away from the illumination and light. And ultimately it comes down to removing an individual from God by corresponding degrees, a little at a time. And it's interesting, we all in this room will have experienced it, and probably people that watch on the video, you can take, say, a week or two in which you're probably not on your game like as much as you should be, and you're maybe being entertained too much by things that are not Torah related, and you skip on a few mitzvahs that you really should be doing, and it isn't long before you almost feel so dumb spiritually that you're thinking, how in the world am I going to get back on track? And it is a strange place because you feel like a man without a country if you wait too long. And you feel like, wow, I've got to get back on the wagon, per se. It's almost like working out. You know, a person that works out and falls off. You know, I work out 7 days a week, and y'all believe that? No, I don't. But I used to work out a lot. Not even 1 day a week. I do work out. Yeah, this is a good story, but I do like a push-up when I get out of bed.
That's your first sit-up and your first push-up?
Yep. And I do like 27 curls when I eat breakfast.
We got the
same routine. It works great. I mean, fantastic. I've been bulking up, but in the wrong areas. But why did I say that? Oh, I used to work out a lot, and I just stopped. And it's hard to get back on. And thank God we're not going to be judged for not working out, but our spiritual, It's tough.
Study Torah, go to the gym.
That's right. And I did try going back to the gym, and I remember running on the treadmill thinking, I'm wasting an hour of my life. That's how I felt. Unfortunately, maybe if I could do something else would help. But anyway, the idea is there is a correspondence of sin. Now, it says, let's read this. The result of bringing him to a certain degree of concealment away from God's light, causing his presence to be completely hidden. As a result of that concealment, a degree of deficiency becomes an integral part of that individual. It is possible to be in such a place of your sin in your life, and we all know how this works. The Ramchal is really not telling us anything we don't know, but the very fact is that you can become or come to such a low place that you couldn't see God if he smacked you right in the keister, right? You wouldn't see him. And that's why we hear the concepts of deep emunah, that a person that finds themselves like that has to start looking for Hashem in every place that you can, every angle, every crack, every little place you begin to look for Hashem. But all of that will be to no avail if there's no study of Torah and mitzvah. We, therefore, we're in paragraph 11, we therefore see that the true purpose of the commandments is to turn us toward God, bring ourselves near to him, and thus be enlightened by his presence, to avoid sin and other phenomena that can lead us away from God. This is the true purpose of all the commandments. The particular details of the commandments, however, have extremely deep significance with the relationship to the details of both man and creation in general. This will be discussed in a separate section. The true purpose of the commandment is to turn us to God. It's pretty much a no-brainer. But it is interesting to understand that the commandments of God, the Torah of Hashem, is the thing that sustains all of creation. Everything is maintained and sustained by the power of the Torah and mitzvah. And as negative and difficult the world seems with crime and war and murder and rape and pillage, we have to realize that it's not taking a whole lot of effort to keep creation going and going really well. It seems that those people who do daven every day and study Torah and do mitzvah, this world is being sustained by it. It's also being sustained by those of the nations who live righteous lives and who maintain a directive in their life to draw close to God at whatever level that they can do, that also elevates righteousness in the world. I've had several hours of discussion with a couple of rabbis about Geulah, which is the Hebrew for redemption, right? And the idea that we are in Geulah now. The Rebbe said back when he was alive in the 80s that we are no longer in the footsteps of Mashiach. We're here. We're in redemption. With that being said, the debate that we had, or the discussion we had, was who's bringing redemption? Are we helping to bring it, or is God bringing it? And the ultimate idea has come down to this. Up until this period of time in history, the general Jewish population, as well as the vast majority of the nations, have been completely veiled. They have not and could not see Hashem. Couldn't. It's just impossible. When Israel became a nation, and slowly but surely over the last 60, how many years now? 60, 70 years? Yeah. So over all these years, we see actually people becoming more religious in Israel than they ever have before. There are a lot of secular people. But something else has happened, and that is the people of the nations coming to Torah and really beginning to express their great love and passion for God and truth and the study of Torah. This is now beginning to expedite redemption. Something is happening in the world. And so the discussion came up. One rabbi asked, well, what do we need to do? And I said, I don't think that we need to do anything more than what we're doing already. Loving Hashem, keeping the commandments, and staying passionate to study, and stay committed to study. And He will bring more illumination. We don't need to go out and stand on soapboxes downtown, have a placard sign that says the end of the world is coming, right? And it's interesting, we had a long discussion as part of this discussion this week that it really is. And we talked about this. They said, even in Judaism, even in normative Judaism, they have a mentality of eschatology that's not about redemption and the saving of mankind, or the restoration of Garden of Eden. It is an end time, everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket before Mashiach comes. And it doesn't have to be that way. We all know that negative prophecy does not need to be to act. So it is possible that we're on the cusp of seeing redemption take place, and it's going to take place because the level of mitzvot that is going to increase by millions of times because the people of the nations will begin to do the mitzvah that they were required to do from the beginning. Millions of people. And then what's going to happen is those mitzvah that the nations begin to do and inspire, they will be encouraging, as Rav Cohen said Sunday, inspire the Jew to stronger Yiddishkeit, stronger study of Torah, being responsible. Encourage them, like, what are you doing here? You need to go daven. You need to make sure. You have to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. And with the process of both of these taking place, the book of The World of the Ger by Rabbi Chaim Chlorfin and Rabbi David Katz says that the nations coming to the knowledge of one God and Torah will be the doorway for Geulah, for redemption. And we are now seeing it with our own eyes all over the world, and we're witnessing it. You're a part of it. Those who are watching this camera, who find yourself watching this video, that you're out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a community, you don't even have a Jewish community to participate in, you're very important. Everybody is a very important part of this cause. Every one of us are important. So my encouragement is, in the conclusion, we have a human responsibility. And what the Ramchal begins to tell us, this human responsibility is to, first and foremost, to draw near to Hashem. How do we draw near to Hashem? We study Torah. You may not have a rabbi near. Maybe this is the only access that you have, but there are plenty of places where you can study hours, listen to hours of lectures of Torah. listen to it, plug into it, never quit learning, and then begin to do acts of righteousness, and you will be a responsible human being, and transform the nations around us. So that concludes the lecture. Anybody else? Next week we're going to go to chapter 5, and we're going to be in paragraph, we'll do probably paragraph 1. So, yes, ma'am.